Hello and welcome to our web chat on the current state of the international Treasury recruitment market. We are joined again by Mike Richards, CEO and founder of the Treasury Recruitment Company, who's been in the business for many years, and we'll be discussing different aspects of the international Treasury recruitment market. The first question, Mike, is, okay, how is it evolving, and are people moving internationally? And if they are, where are they going?
Well, as you say, Jack, these have been turbulent economic times right the way across the globe. You've had events like Brexit, you've had European changes, most recently in Spain, for instance, political change within the US. These have all influenced Treasury recruitment activity. And although the good thing is Treasury recruitment itself is a specialist area, so it's slightly less affected. It sort of walks a middle line, if you like. So specialist recruiters, we're never going to get a phone call and say, right, we want 5 treasurers, please, Mike. You have 1 treasurer for your business. They come down, coming down the model, if you like. Then you've got 2 treasury managers, maybe 3 or 4 junior staff. So there is constant turnover, but in terms of regular changes, it's less so. One thing we have seen is a lot more operational recruitment happening throughout the UK, across Switzerland and Belgium, very particular busy markets, right through the Netherlands and Luxembourg. So, it's been busy times there.
You've got a lot of operational recruitment, but what has it been like for recruiting more senior Treasury staff? Is it the same across Europe?
I think less so, because there's been a greater demand on Treasury departments to deliver, if you like. So there has been some strategic recruitment of treasurers, and we'll go on to some of the stuff we've seen coming from CFOs and what they've demanded from their treasurers. But I think one of the key things we've seen, certainly in the mid-level, is a greater focus from many corporates to get greater clarity around their risks and controls, particularly in these turbulent times. And I think that's a product of that. So you've got people going, God, where are we at risk? We need clarity on this. We need a treasury controller. We need treasury accountants. That's one of the key things that we're seeing at the moment. If you're, involved in that side of things, you're a treasury accountant, we can probably place you 10 times over. We've got 6 vacancies across the UK and internationally, just looking for people with that sort of background. That's one of the key demands that we're getting from not just from the treasurer, from the CFO, saying, right, I need to know where the problems are coming before they arrive, sort of thing.
Is that also in the States and in Asia?
Yeah, I think it is. Well, certainly what we've seen, yes, with US in particular. I was meeting some really strong treasurers in Barcelona recently, talking to them, and I said, what are they seeing as the demand levels? And one of the key things that they were noticing is that, again, there's greater clarity. In Asia Pacific, less so. It's been more operational recruitment, and certainly across into Australia, where we've been doing some. Again, what they're looking for is people that can come in and actually make a difference right away, and that really hit the ground running. I was also asked at the Bureau of Finance how I've seen the role of the treasurer change, given the role of rise rather of new technology, so blockchain, straight through processing, and they were saying, oh, has the role of the treasurer really changed? And I said, well, actually, it's not changed as such. It's just another thing added to the mix. Because if you're a treasurer, you're an expert in all those areas, as we know. So you've got risk management, foreign exchange, bank relationships, and then added to that is your IT and systems knowledge. And now I think nowadays you need to be able to bring all those things together at the same time as doing your day job. And while sometimes treasurers were seen as being treasury specialists or finance specialists, now they're much more business focused. And if you like, you're a paracetamol for your CFO's problems, when they're saying, oh, God help, that's what you're particularly doing. So, really, it's a challenging role to be a modern day treasurer in that sense.
Okay, now the biggest impact in Europe is clearly Brexit. Is that making any difference in terms of treasury recruitment?
I think people have been nervous, and people were asking me questions about it and saying, how did I think it was going to impact it? I think the impact will be muted, because if you are in Treasury, you're a highly skilled finance professional. And so I think there will be greater bureaucracy. And I think that it may make moves a little bit more challenging sometimes. But I think at the end of the day, if you're a treasurer, you can ply your trade anywhere. And I think, you're still going to be in demand. So I think it may be less skilled staff, if you like, in recruitment that will find it more difficult.
And the big question is always, when you talk about recruitment, is what are the salary levels happening? Is it the same across the world, or are there different changes?
UK has slowly improved, not radically. We're getting a rising demand throughout Europe for skilled guys. So if you're a skilled treasury professional, that's where we found the greatest growth, if you like, and we've got a number of positions. You've still got the Swiss bubble, and people moving into Switzerland, moving out of Switzerland. The salary levels are so, different, such a differential. High, tax situations for individuals is better, but the cost of living is far higher. And so one offsets the other. We had a Swiss Treasury candidate just the other day who was keen on a move to Europe, and they were like, well, I'm literally going to take a 50% cut in my salary. I said, yeah, but all your other bills are going to be 50% lower. But they eventually couldn't make that and get away from the Swiss bubble. They said, well, actually, I'm going to stay here for a few more years and ride this wave, as it were.
So the other big thing is happening in the treasury market and particularly in the recruitment market is technology.
Yes.
And the rise of technology and we're talking about robots, we're talking about artificial intelligence. What are you seeing as the impact on treasurers? Are they going to have to change like you're suggesting here?
I think there will be change, but people have said, our treasurer is going to be replaced by robots, and I said no, because whilst automation will actually remove some routine, mundane tasks and system type tasks, treasury is actually, again, as you know, about the non-routine. It focuses on the future and future financing and predicting the future. And you can't predict it, but you can plan for it. And you know that change is the only constant. Now, if you actually can predict the future, let me know, because I'd like to know the lottery numbers for next week. That would really help. But joking aside, treasurers do have to adapt to what is a constantly accelerating and changing environment. Agility of mind is key, thought. The day-to-day tasks are still going to be there. Technology is going to help you deliver the results. But one of the things I have noticed is that when people are implementing changes or systematizing things, make a big cost saving for their bosses and everything else, does that investment come back to the treasurer and the treasury department? Or a lot of the time, I'm seeing CFOs benefiting from that, saying, oh, that's great work, that's really going to give us greater clarity and make us money. But actually, you want to reinvest that sometimes in the treasury team rather than demotivate them by just taking the cash, sort of thing.
One of the aspects of technology is it doesn't remove jobs necessarily, but it removes tasks. And
Yes.
The increasing number of digital tools that the banks and third parties are providing, is that changing the nature of the operational work, the operational recruitment?
Not really. I think treasurers, a lot of the time, won't be early adopters of technology. They want to see proof. They want to see something is actually working before they implement it. I was speaking to a treasurer about last year, and he said, if you're taking on a new member of staff, you always reference check them. You do thorough checks on their background and everything else, see what they're like. Well, if it's new technology, how can you see that? How can you assess that? So I think the assessment process is key. They're actually saying, Mike, we've got a team here that needs motivation, or we need to re-recruit a team, or our systems, yes, they might be out of date. We need to bring them up to date, but actually making a massive step change, if you like, by going to, say, blockchain or something further on, I think is actually a step maybe too far. And CFOs generally will come to us and say, look, we need a strong treasurer. IT is a key part of that, but you've got everything else with it as well.
So what would you say is the advice you'd give to the CFO about recruiting a treasurer, given this changing world, increasingly technological with digital robots, AI, and so on? Has it changed what your recommendation is in terms of what they should be looking for?
Not necessarily the recommendation, but what I do find sometimes frustrating, I would say, is the CFO comes to me and the key thing I say to them is be brave. And that's not a phrase you usually hear, from a recruiter maybe to a CFO, but a lot of the time I'll talk to a CFO and I say, I want someone who can really bring in this new technology, who can automate, who can embrace and improve things. That's brilliant. But then once they've said that, they then reach down to the bottom drawer, pick out the job description for their treasurer from 5 or 10 years ago, brush up a couple of bits, change the date and hand it back to me. So it's actually, if they want to do that, I would like to say, look, really go for that person. Go for someone fresh, new, and look at what they've achieved in terms of IT and in terms of all the other things that make a strong treasurer, if you like. The other thing I would say on the other flip side, which I have to coach CFOs on a lot of the time as well, is it's the sort of push-pull model. What I mean by that is candidates aren't going to rush through your door. If you just put a treasurer job out there in the world and say, oh, you're going to come join us, we've got a great... Why? What's your dream if you're a company? People aren't going to beat a path to your door. What you have to do is focus on what makes you and your company different, and you as a CFO. We were doing this session actually in Munich, and I was saying to people, you shouldn't be using us in some ways. They're like, what? I said, well, we should be the last resort, not the first resort. If you're using me, it's because someone's had to leave. What you need to do is help develop those treasuries and treasurers' careers, and you'll retain staff for far longer and get greater results. So I think if you think about those factors, how that also impacts on when you're starting a new recruitment campaign, I think that's a key thing as well. You've got to think about what are your pull factors? Why would you come and join you as a company? What's your amazing proposition?
That's exactly the sort of thing you were talking about with your creating the perfect CV.
Yeah, and I think it's just about greater clarity and look at what someone could come and achieve with you guys.
Is there a single thing looking over the next 3 to 4 years that will change the Treasury recruitment market?
I think that the discipline of Treasury will remain the same. It's still about planning for the future, and future might involve new technology and lots of other things. I think that the toolbox of a treasurer, if you like, is going to have to be wider, and they're going to have to cope with more things. And so I think, yes, the landscape is going to continue to change, but then it has done for the past 15, 20 years.
Thank you. Very useful and interesting as always. Thanks.